Page 3, it's talking about the logistics industry. So this is where the industry analysis begins. So I've highlighted a few things that we should take note of. So logistics is a broad term that encompasses the process of managing the flow of goods, ensuring that they reach their intended destination in time. So I've highlighted there that the flow is inward and outward flows, inward and outward flows. And then logistics include the planning, implementation, and control. So I've highlighted planning, implementation, and control because those are one of the critical success factors for anybody to succeed in this industry. They must be able to plan, control the movement, the flows of goods from one destination to another. It's all about timing in this industry. It's all about efficiency. It's all about safety. It's all about arriving on time. So how do you plan? How do you manage the logistics of goods, the flow of goods from one place to another, from one location to another, from one country to another, from one means of transportation to another? How do you manage it so that there's no loss? You do not incur too much loss, you save time, and then you meet customers' demands at the point at which they need them. So it's all about timing in this industry. So that's why I've highlighted that as one of the critical factors to take note of. Planning, implementation, and control required to ensure safe and efficient management of that flow, as well as the physical transportation of materials and products. So most logistics systems involve the following. You have the inbound logistics, you have the internal logistics, and then you have the outbound logistics. So it flows from the suppliers to the entity, and then from the entity, it flows out to the customers. So how do you manage these flows? So what are the things that are involved in the inbound logistics that is under this place, from the suppliers to the internal, into the entity? You have the receiving and checking of goods. There are a lot of things that can happen in this place. Receiving and checking alone involves different documentation, different approvals, custom regulations. Where do you receive it from? From port. You receive it into your store. You receive it into your warehouse. You have different, how do you receive it? Is it manual? Is it by automation? So all of these things are what you have in this place. Those are the kind of things that must be managed efficiently. You have storing of the goods if necessary, and then you have updating the inventory records. Those are the things that are usually involved in the inbound logistics. Then you have the internal logistics. Now we have received the goods in the entity. Now the company has received the goods. So let's say Daystroke has received the goods. What happened? Now you begin to manage the goods. There are some goods that are perishable. You must manage them. You warehouse them, refrigerate some items if there are things that can perish. If there are things that can perish in time, so you quickly find ways to refrigerate them. Sometimes they need to apply some chemicals to some goods. Sometimes you need to maintain a certain amount of temperature in the warehouse. So all of these things are very, very important, and they require energy, they require good infrastructure to be able to maintain. Now, then you maintain the inventory records to avoid inefficiencies. You maintain the inventory records. Always make sure you have updated records. What they brought in, is that what it's been accounted for in the warehouse? What they brought in, has it not been missing somewhere? Do you have some that have been broken? Do you have some that were damaged? So all of these things must be maintained. Then you have outbound logistics. So now we have maintained them in the warehouse, and it's time to move them out to the customers. How do we move them? Means of transportation and all of that. So you have the warehouse picking. Who comes to pick those goods at the warehouse? How do you arrange for pickup? What process? Which of those processes do you automate? All the processes that are involved in that are what will fall under the warehouse picking. Then you have the packing. Some of the goods needs to be packed in containers, in cartons, in different kinds of packages. Then you have the dispatch. You have dispatch riders, and then you have the recording as well. You maintain proper record in the end. Outbound logistics also include the reverse logistics, whereby goods move from the customer to the entity. So sometimes you have returns inwards, or goods that have been that are defective. They will be returned back to us. How do we manage them? Sometimes when you order a product from Amazon, and then you don't like what you order, you have to return them back to Amazon. So how do you arrange for those returns? Sometimes they put some plastic bags in the package for you, so that if you want to return your order, they tell you to put it back in that plastic bag, label it, properly label it, and fill a form inside the bag, and then go and drop it in this particular location or the other. So all of those things are what are involved in outbound logistics as well, known as the reverse logistics. Reverse logistics. So each stage in the flow of goods depends upon the maintenance and communication of accurate information. So also note this, maintenance and communication of accurate information is also part of the critical success factors. It's also one of the critical success factors. Maintenance and communication of accurate information. So I put it here, said critical CSF, basically. Logistics requires the effective communication of information. Can you see once again? Effective communication of information. So these things are the critical success factors in this industry. You must take note of them. Anytime you are talking about anything logistics, you are giving any answer, you must always mention, they are like ingredients that you must sprinkle all over your answers for the examiner to know that you know what you are talking about. The scale and complexity of logistics varies between entities, depending on their size and the nature of their business. So for example, a manufacturer such as Moulton Motors has very different needs from a retailer such as Murdoch Supermarkets.